family setup now, would you say that about 50% or 50% of Nigerian family really understand what value-based education is?
Because I carried out a survey, we actually have data and survey to carry that out. I would say no. We have not yet institutionalized value-based learning. There is now a disconnect between the intent and embedding, and it translates into positive behavior within the society. And the only thing that can align the intent and communicate the message to children and structures and organizations so that they internalize those values and translate them to positive behavior is a structure. You have to create a structure. It's a building block. So you can't assume it. It's not something we can assume. Like I said, many years ago, those things, values, everything smelled of values. Everything around us was value-based because the structure of the family was a bit different. It was very, very different then. So embedding values was easy. And if you missed it in the house, the church was there to correct you. If you missed it in the church, your neighbors were there to give you a good beating if your mom wasn't around. You understand? So it was like everybody became a custodian of values. Everybody. So wherever we missed it, there was always a hierarchy of checklists of people or institutions that would check you at some point. But we've lost those examples. Today, I don't know if you watched what happened with the media and one of Nigeria's old politicians on TV. So he blew up. And, all of that, that has passed the message. It has passed the message. Not so. As a leader, somebody should ask you a question that you're not comfortable with. The truth of the matter is, it's a teaching opportunity. As a leader, he could have taught the guy to be better. It was a teaching opportunity, which he missed out on. He has to create a structure around values-based learning. I talk about values. I always like to make it clear that I'm talking about values that develop the individual, the community, the society, and the nation. Those are the values that I refer to every time I speak about values. But because the structure has not been intentionally been created to ensure that the communication of the message of the values that we uphold is indeed embedded into children, and they can internalize those values and communicate them or translate them to positive behavior, so that it now starts to impact and influence on society. I engaged the services of some real professionals that had attended very big schools internationally to bring, those training programs to train my staff. I found that those programs would work for about 3 to 1 day, and then my team members would go back to their lackadaisical, indifferent attitude to work. And so it was a bother because it was affecting my profit. It was affecting my bottom line. And I decided that I was going to embark on it after I had done it for 2 years because I had strength. It wasn't much for 20-something. And I thought, I can't do this. I'm paying these people and I'm doing their job. So I was everything. I was a cleaner. I was everything. And I found myself getting really sad. And I carried out an interview on my team members. By the time I finished with it, I realized that there was something really missing. There was a missing link within the Nigerian mindset. And that was that we're just driven by money. Nobody was coming to work for me because they really cared about the job or they were passionate. It was a means to an end, which was a means to getting money. And based on what I found out, I developed a training program. I trained my team members. Needless to say, my profits improved. The quality of team members that I had positively improved. And it started to influence even their homes, their husbands, it started to influence and speak in so many ways, including their children. After this happened, I decided that, okay, now I was going to start my training. And when I started my training, I gathered, youth couples, young Nigerians, saying that was where I was going to start from and prepare them for the workplace so that they understand that, listen, once you are values-driven, you will be profitable. Because at the end of the day, what they want is money. So how do you get the money? Don't think about the end result. Think about the person you become while you try to pursue that end result. And so while training, it was still the same problem. I was like, I would get a copper and ask him, if you're going to earn 70,000 naira a month, which was part of the standard test that we ran, if you're going to earn 70,000 naira a month, how much would you say you earn per hour if you work 5 days a week for 7 hours? It was a basic calculation. They couldn't do it. These are graduates. They didn't understand the formula and initiative, which is a training initiative that focuses clearly on children ages 3 to between people, right? And I realized that we needed to go down. So in answering your question, how do you not get affected, by what is going on in the society? The only way that we can start to effect the change that we require is to start from the beginning. It's costly. And one of the things that I realized that we are not willing to do as Africans and as Nigerians, start from the beginning. We don't want to dig deep. It's a principality, it's a stronghold. And then I realized that no, if leadership does not understand how much core values are impacting, influencing, and affecting our outcome and the society that we are in, our economics, our cultural, everything, then we are in trouble. So what we need to do is people like you and I, we've decided we're going to start from the younger generation. Start focusing on the early years children, because a child of 5 today will be 15 when? In 10 years' time. A child of 10 today is 20 when? 10 years' time. We don't even have the time. There's no time. We don't even have that time. So right now, focusing on the early years is the right way to go. Right now, focusing on early years, every child today in Nigeria, 200 million, we have a very young population. More of us are below 35 years of age. Now, if you focus on them, you're not doing the wrong thing. You're actually doing the right thing because you're building those values. And like I said, government will catch up and then we can all go together on this journey. But we will catch up. Everybody will catch up. So to answer that question, I'll go back again to what is very important, what I find works. It's now creating a structure around values-based learning, even in the family unit. Indeed, development of a child with regards to values was left to the mother many years ago. But the place of a woman in the society cannot be downplayed now. Women are necessary in the workplace. They are needed in the workplace. So the only thing we now need to do is change the way we embed those values. And like you said, it's a collaborative approach that parents have on their children is stronger than in the home than in the school. Because like I said, when they are young, that's their first interaction with the world, and they soak up majority of the values. And if they have been well-rounded, if the parents have created that structure with intentionality, I'm talking about creating a value space between the mom and the dad. And when the mom and dad put that structure in place, you will find that the people that are around the children will be drafted into that structure. They are drafted into the structure. So moms and dads that will listen to this, that are even on this platform, it is a collaborative effort now, institutionalizing values-based learning, taking the children to schools that are values-based, that practice values-based learning and education, identifying those schools and ensuring that those schools are indeed values-based structures to work with systems, which will take time. And what happens is the people that you draft into your home, they key into that system or they fall out. Because if you can't thrive in a place where excellence is thriving, what will you do? You will leave.
Yeah.
Or you will change.
Yeah.
So it's all about building. It has to be intentional. The books the children are reading, what they are watching. It's about creating those structures intentionally and allowing, when you bring people around you, you help them to key into that system. And those that can't stay in the system, naturally they fall out.
A great leader that I respect so much in the education space, 𝗂𝗶𝗵𝗶 Mrs. KK. So she says, what sort of questions should parents ask to determine which school is actually value-driven or providing values-based education?
All right, I would say it's a very simple question you ask. You just ask them, how are you guys embedding your values in your curriculum and in your students? Just ask that question. How? What are the structures that you have put in place? Just ask. And once they are able to answer the questions, then you will now know. Just ask that question. How is it embedded in the environment? Because for schools, values-based schools, the values should influence or impact their operations, their decisions, their policies, their environment, and their staff. It's not in those 5 places. Now, if you do not see any evidence of that, you don't need to ask, because you go into a school and their values, it's so powerful. Values are so powerful that if you have clearly put that structure in place and you go there and you say to them, please, how do you embed the value of, assuming they say excellence is one of their biggest values, the ethical standards by which you define those values? And how do you embed them? How do you measure them? How do you manage it? They should be able to tell you clearly, values are not things you say. There must be a commensurate proof. And if you can't internalize and communicate them in positive behavior so that it influences your policies, your teachers, your students, then you might want to go back to the drawing board and try to ensure that it's well embedded.
I'm aware that your book, your book, Captain Excellence and the Great Hall of Knowledge, is a required reading across primary schools, public primary schools in Lagos. Could you please shed a little light on the book and how people here, and including myself, how we can get to lay hold of that book? And because it's really going to be, I've seen some reviews, and it's going to be a good instrument for every one of us.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that question. And so mandatory read for extracurricular or co-curricular read, it's yes, I got the approval to distribute it around the whole of Lagos State. And what happened was, while I've been into value-based learning now for 4.5 years, because I had to stop that business I was doing, and I realized that there was a huge gap in this one, and I needed to pursue it. And in thinking about it, I only think, how do I solve this problem? I don't believe in talking about the issue. How do we solve this problem? That's how I became an accidental author. Tell you, when people call me an author, I'm like, I'm not an author. I don't think so. But that's how I became an accidental author. Because I realized that we needed to put this in a book form so that children can gain access to the book and they're able to read it. Why did I focus on the public primary schools? Because most of the private schools in Lagos, they do justice, or they try to do justice to running a values-based foundation in their schools. But when we talk about the public schools, not so much. They're not being carried along. And we cannot remove the education in the public school from the education in the private school, because this has to be a collective effort, and we need to carry everyone. So the first episode really focused on values that a child between the age of 5 and 10 should have. And we have a superhero, Captain Excellence, who is the custodian of those values, and is taking them on an adventure. We have quite a number in the series. The second book is Captain Excellence and the Big Orange, and I'm really excited about this title. It's teaching children creativity, because creativity stimulates focus, discipline. It's a more fun way, for children to learn. We have a Generation Z workbook, and it's focused again on instilling those values: discipline, focus, diligence, entrepreneurship spirit, saving. So creativity is really, really powerful. So those books are strictly focused, you understand, on embedding or creating a structure, a semblance of some structure, right? Just some semblance for children to start interacting. So, before we used to, Tales by Moonlight. I don't know if you were born when we were watching Tales by Moonlight. Those stories, we used to learn from them, right? But now we see that foreigners are bringing the content that we are consuming, but we have our own values that are relevant to our own personal development, because we are not quite where the Westerners are. So we need to embed those things properly. So the books are just focused on developing those things, the pride of the culture of being a Nigerian with positive values, and how we can turn those values into, beneficial national values and groom true leaders that understand the place of service, unity, excellence, growth, and development. So yes, that's just about my DM. So yes, because in the past, that's the whole of last year, we were focused predominantly on wholesale. So now we have the need, because schools are out, we are working something out again, how we're going to continue distribution. So for now, we have schools. So schools usually buy them in bulk. Corona School, they bought it as part of their extracurricular read at Corona School. And then, Meadow Hall, they also bought into the project. So for now, it has to be very holistic. So we onboard the community, the parents and the guardians of those children in the public school, to have a conversation about the importance of values-based learning and why they have to be part of the process. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Izehi, for your time. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks to all the participants for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.